welcome back to another video. Today's date is July 14th, 2026. Time check is 07:30. And once again, I am seen on the highway, and I'm making my way up to Fostoria, Ohio. As many of you probably know, up to this point, Union Pacific Big Boy number 4014 has already made one trip through the Buckeye State over the last few weeks, and it is back in the Buckeye State once again. However, this day is a public display day, so there's a very specific location in Fostoria where 4014 and its cracked excursion consist is currently parked for the viewers and spectators to come and see for themselves. Now, in terms of the previous video that I've made of Union Pacific 4014, I understand I've made some minor errors when it comes to the production of that video, but that was mainly because most of the production of that video was on the same day I saw 4014 last time, and I was pretty tired by the time I got back, so it's time for attempt number 2, and I'm gonna try and see if I can top the previous attempt of seeing 4014. I am currently near the upper Sandusky area, so I still have a little ways to go. I might do a little bit of sightseeing on my way up because public access to the spot 4014 is currently sitting is not available till about 9 o'clock this morning, so stay tuned. I wouldn't quite make it to Fostoria as I wanted to check out the National Lime and Stone Company and the Wheeling and Lake Erie in Cary, Ohio, as I had a little bit of time to kill, and as luck would have it, Wheeling and Lake Erie Train 711 would be seen pulling into the yard. Wheeling and Lake Erie Train 711 is an as-needed rock job that runs between Brittain Rail Yard and Akron, Ohio for the National Lime and Stone Company in Cary, Ohio, with a duo of Tiger SD40-2s doing the honors today. After watching the train pull into the yard, I would then venture a little closer to the National Lime and Stone Company in hopes of getting some good pictures of the SD40-2s. Now, I only took these pictures from my car, as in multiple other scenarios like this, the line between public and private property is very blurred, and I didn't want to spend too much time there if I wasn't welcome. Alrighty folks, I'm about 1.5 miles from where 4014 is being displayed today, and The unfortunate thing is I am stuck in the long line of traffic that's coming in to see it. I knew this coming in from the start, but doesn't change the fact that it's pretty annoying to have to use more gas than you need to, but I guess I'm not the one that gets to make that decision today, so I'll go ahead and cut back to you guys once I find a place to park and the festivities get started. Going off on a second tangent before the main event would take place, while I was sitting in traffic, I would notice that a welded rail train was parked in the small yard outside the automotive distribution center that 4014 was parked at, with one of Norfolk Southern's MOW-9s, or if you can even call it a -9 at this point. After getting this picture from my car, I'm able to come to the conclusion that I like the paint scheme on this locomotive, but that doesn't change the fact that it's pretty ugly, but it's a maintenance locomotive, so does it really need to look good? I don't think so. Alright everybody, I finally made it in, and there's a pretty good crowd over here. All the business is up on the front, so let's go ahead and get a closer look. Once I was able to get into the automotive distribution center, sitting right before me was the steam giant herself. Built in 1941 by the American Locomotive Company and gaining the name Big Boy over Wasatch, as the legend says, 4014 would serve faithfully for the Union Pacific from 1941 to 1961. After retirement, 4014 was donated to the Rail Giants Museum in Pomona, California, and it would sit there till about 2013, when the same rail company, Union Pacific, would reacquire the locomotive with the intention of using it in its steam program, and that would begin after a years-long restoration completed in 2019. In the other video covering my previous encounter with 4014, I made a claim that 4014 was never in the Buckeye State prior to the 250th tour that it's on currently. However, that claim in and of itself is not entirely true. As pointed out to me in a pinned comment on that video, UP 4014 did make a trip through the Buckeye State back during the steam era when it was being delivered to the Union Pacific, as it was the only way to get it out there. Behind 4014 are the pair of aux tenders Union Pacific uses in the steam program to help with the large appetites of waters their steam locomotives have, especially 4014. Moving over to the quintet of diesels, we start off with UP 1616, an SD70M built in 2000 by the Electromotive Division as 4015, and now proudly wears a two-tone red and gray paint scheme to commemorate the nation's 16th president, Abraham Lincoln. Diesels 2 through 4 are Norfolk Southern SD70 Aces 2026, 250, and 1776, all built by the Electromotive Division in 2019 as NS 1195, 1184, and 1192 respectively. All three of these aces were repainted at Norfolk Southern's Juniata shops with really cool stripe patterns and graphics on the long hood, and have been dubbed the Lady Liberty, the Freedom, and the Belle. The final diesel on the train is Union Pacific 1776, an SD70M built by the Electromotive Division in 2000 as 4164. Unfortunately, UP 1776 is one of the most unimpressive America 250th units that have come out, as it's basically just the old flag paint scheme with America 250th stickers on the side of the nose and the long hood. Even after Ed Dickens would explain why the locomotive was painted that way, that still doesn't fully change how low effort this really was. Behind all of the locomotives are Union Pacific's vast array of passenger cars, including the Union Pacific display car, the Promontory, where guests were actually encouraged to walk up and go inside and take a look at the displays inside the car. Behind all of the Union Pacific passenger cars were 4 Norfolk Southern passenger cars, 3 of which came from the office car special, while the final one on the very end was recently reacquired by Norfolk Southern from a railroad museum as evidence of the lack of red paint.
Most of the crew typically does is I'm out ahead. So all the people that I've come across, all the emergency management agencies, the local people, have all been great, all been welcoming, all been helpful. And I will say the best experience, the one question I got asked, it was totally random. This little 6-year-old kid in West Chicago walks up to me. It's at the end of the day. He just looks at me, he's like, "Hey mister." I'm like, "Hey buddy, what's up?" And he says, "Is that thing bigger than a blue whale?"
Around noon, my time with 4014 would come to an end as there were other places I wanted to visit while I was out here. Despite this tour being seen as more of a promotion for the upcoming UP and Norfolk Southern merger, which is still in discussion, I still had a fun time on both of these occasions, and everyone behind Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern definitely deserve their flowers. But we can feed those flowers to the local wildlife if they actually do get this merger approved, though. Alrighty, folks. I've had my fun with 4014, so I've decided to spend the rest of my afternoon over here at the Iron Triangle Rail Park. As you can see, there's a grain train that's taking the Southwest Y to Columbus. Unfortunately, though, I missed the power because it took me forever to get out of the automotive place that 4014 was being parked at. So, stay tuned as the action continues. Despite missing that grain train, the action would start almost immediately when an eastbound would appear on Norfolk Southern's Fostoria district, NS Intermodal 270, on a daily journey between Landers Yard in Chicago, Illinois, for Rickenbacker Yard in Columbus, Ohio. A speed restriction was imposed on all 3 subdivisions to compensate for the influx of rail fans and spectators at the park today.
Back in my day. Oh wow, it's the end of the train.
While talking to a buddy of mine from the Model Railroad Club, I would almost miss a westbound on the Fostoria district, NS Autorack Train 11E, which runs on a daily basis between Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and Roanoke, Indiana, as I would get a cool shot of it crossing the Willard subdivision diamond a few hundred yards away.
What? Never moved.
As the craziness was continuing, I would almost miss another train, a westbound on CSX's Willard subdivision, specifically intermodal I-161, which runs on a daily basis out of Port Newark, New Jersey for North Baltimore, Ohio. Utilizing the crossovers and the northwest transfer simultaneously, an eastbound would show up on CSX's Willard subdivision, intermodal I-150, on a nearly 100-mile daily journey between North Baltimore, Ohio, and Detroit, Michigan. With the craziness persisting, I decided to move to the old Amtrak station just west of the rail park. In doing so, I would almost miss a westbound mixed freight train on NS's Fostoria district. I unfortunately wasn't able to get the symbol of this train, but what made it stand out was the mixture of Norfolk Southern, KCS, and BNSF power. The next eastbound through town would be the highest priority train that the Willard subdivision sees, CSX Intermodal IO10, on a mad dash between Bedford Park and Chicago, Illinois, for North Bergen, New Jersey, with both domestic and international shippers in addition to UPS trailers. The Willard subdivision would prove to be the busiest right-of-way this afternoon when another westbound would appear, taking the northwest transfer from the Pemberville subdivision, CSX Mixed Freight Train M567, which runs on a daily basis out of Walbridge, Ohio, for Gibson, Indiana, with traffic for the Indiana Harbor Belt. I was notified earlier in the day that this train was on the radar for the Willard subdivision, and here it finally is. CSX Mixed Freight Train M506 on a daily journey between Cincinnati, Ohio and Walbridge, Ohio, preparing to take the Northwest Transfer to continue that journey. The reason why I was notified of this train's presence was the little 4-axle trailing third, an ex-Conrail GP38-2. quest for some fresh water, since I was a little dehydrated with the 95 plus degree temperatures in the area, I would find myself returning to the rail park and witnessing a meet between NS local trains L70 and L71 on the Fostoria district. Despite having already pushed record on my phone, I had to continue walking in hopes of L70's power not getting blocked by L71. And as you're seeing here, it worked, but just barely. After getting the desperately needed water, I would then start making my way back over to where I parked my car. However, I wouldn't make it in time before our eastbound mixed freight train M560 would make its way through on the Willard subdivision, on its daily journey between Cincinnati, Ohio and Selkirk, New York. After witnessing the bottom heads on both signal masts for the Willard subdivision lighting up for eastbound traffic, I was interested in seeing which one would get here first. The train that did get here first was eastbound ethanol train B633, preparing to take the southwest transfer to turn towards Columbus. Despite another eastbound approaching on the Willard subdivision behind the B633, I was not interested in seeing that one as I was pretty tired up to this point, but I was also intending on following the B633 south out of Fostoria. Eventually, I would get ahead of the B633 and catch it again at the West Finley Street crossing as it continued on its as-needed journey off the CPKC Railway in Bensenville, Illinois, for Charlotte, North Carolina. Alrighty folks, that basically concludes my second trip to see Union Pacific Big Boy number 4014. It was much more interesting to see 4014 again with all the extra elements they added to the consist, and it was overall just a really good day to meet some friends and enjoy this experience, which will probably never happen again. Unfortunately, though, the elements of Mother Nature were pretty hard on my body because I was sweating like crazy throughout most of the day. It was on my sunburnt skin, it was in my clothes, in my hair, it even got in my eyes. But even with all of that, I still had a lot of fun coming out here for a second time, and I'm sure that means something. If you enjoyed this video, consider checking out some other ones of mine. Leave a like or a comment down below to share your thoughts. Subscribe if you're new, and tap the notifications bell if you want to be notified when a new video gets posted here on the channel, just like this. Until next time, this is All Ohio Rail Fan, signing off.